All right, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? Welcome back to another episode of the Remote Closing Academy podcast. And yes, the title that you read to click into this episode is true. We're going to be talking to a 17-year-old that made $10,000 in a single month as an appointment setter. Now, I wanted to really cover this episode, number one, because I think it's cool that, this is who we're talking to, 17. He actually recently turned 18, but we get a ton of questions on social media, on all these different platforms of people saying, hey, Aaron, I'm 15, 16, 17. Can I see success as a remote closer? And today's guest is, living proof of that, right? Made $10,000 in a single month. So without going too deep into his story, he's going to tell everything that you need to know. So make sure to sit back, relax, and enjoy today's episode. First of all, dude, welcome.
Really sweet to be here, man. I'm just super excited.
Cool. So, dude, let's kind of just jump right into it, and we'll chat about what it's funny because a lot of people we have in here are a little bit older, right? And they have they've been in a bunch of jobs, and they've been in the corporate world and college and all that kind of stuff. But you're because you said you just turned 18, correct?
Yeah, turned 18 in June.
Okay, so you just turned 18, but you still had like a good amount of work experience that helped you say, hey, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. So let's just rewind the clocks a little bit. Let's say a couple years ago, what was maybe your first job, and I guess what were you doing before remote closing?
Yeah. So my very first job, I worked at Panera Bread as a cashier and dishwasher. I worked there for a couple months. I really did not like it. The only good part about it was honestly the employees, made friends, we talked, goofed around a lot. But when they were training me for dishwashing, there was this old man who was in his 70s, and I saw him washing the dishes. His hands are all red and pruning and things. He had scars. He's like, this is going to happen in your hands when you wash all these dishes. And I'm like, oh, that's crazy. How long have you been here? He's like, I've been here for 30 years. I'm like, oh, interesting. Yeah. Sweet. And then, I was washing dishes, and I was realizing every time I just do an 8-hour shift looking at the wall, I'm just like, I don't want to do this, man.
Yeah. Just kind of in a back, little cave almost.
Oh yeah. I did not enjoy it, man. I really did not.
Yeah. So it's funny because I actually worked at a restaurant from when I was 16 or 17 up until I was about 22, I think. And that's when I kind of got exposed to the online world. I saw direct that as well, going back into the dish pit and seeing these guys just slaving away. It's crazy, the amount of work that goes into some of that stuff to get paid what they do. So okay, so you work at Panera and you realize, okay, I don't want to wash dishes for the rest of my life. Did you have any other jobs after that? And because obviously you just graduated from school as well. So what was kind of the next step after that?
So yeah, when I was working this job, I still was in my senior year. I think earlier senior year. After that, I quit it because I did not want it anymore, and I started working at Target. Maybe change of scenery. I don't want to keep destroying my hands every shift, so with hot boiling water, so I'm just gonna change the scenery. So I started going to Target, and I was hoping it was gonna be different. I was stocking shelves, but it was kind of the same kind of feeling, yo, what am I doing? I was stacking these macaroni and cheese boxes, but what am I doing with my life right now? But yeah, I've only ever had 2 jobs before. I say it was just Target and Panera Bread, and then I did some lawn mowing kind of thing to gain extra money.
Yeah, cool. So after the Target, so when did you, I guess, overall, or when was the first time that you heard about remote closing or setting? Because usually you either have to see some sort of ad, or you're on YouTube, or see something on Instagram. But what was it for you? How did you get exposed to the whole world?
Oh, TikTok. So at this point, I quit Panera and Target, and with the money saved up, I bought a laptop because I knew some opportunities had to be on there. I don't know exactly what at all. I just knew I need a laptop because these big people have laptops. So I bought a laptop, and one day I was just scrolling on TikTok on my phone, and I see an ad for a guy talking, another guru, I've seen so many of them talk about, gain this to get a lot of money and everything. I'm like, okay, probably it's another one. But this one, I don't know why, I didn't scroll. I just kept watching it, and I don't remember exactly what he was saying, but he's talking about a high value skill. You get this, 10K a month. I'm like, you know what? Why not? And I just clicked on it, put my information in, and then totally forgot about it. And then 2 days later, somebody called me or texted me in class with my full name and everything, like, hey, this is so and so from RCA. Then a brief description of what it is, and if I want to hop on a call later, I'm like, that's interesting. And then I was gonna completely just ignore it, but I'm like, you know what? I'm sitting in class, I'm bored, so yeah, I just hit yes. And I think literally a day later, or later that night, someone called me, and I was like, full on, oh, it's a scammer. I'm gonna create the funniest voice, make the weirdest environment ever. So I completely changed my voice, and then like like a fan on my phone was hitting it and stuff. And then they said my name, and then I was like, excuse me? And then the ball went rolling from there.
Yeah. Okay. So what's I guess, because it sounds like you were pretty skeptical, like within those first, like, like you said, oh, like there was this guru, but you decided to like move forward, and then you got this text, and then you're like, this is probably a scammer, but then you move forward again, and you got this call, and you thought it was a scam. Like what got you out of the mindset of like, okay, like I have to not think that everything's a scam, and then just like maybe just give this thing a try and like hop on the call?
Dang, yeah. So I guess what really like helped me transition that it wasn't a scam was when I hopped on the Zoom call with he's not here now, but it was Chris Martin at the time. And like before then, I was just kind of just giving my information out, fully knowing it's a scam. Like, it's just probably a scam, but I'm just gonna do it anyway because what else do I have going? I mean, I'm in school, tests, I guess. But so I just went with it. And then when I went on that Zoom call, and then he started asking me like personal questions. I'm like, this is a weird Zoom call. This dude's asking me, what do you want to do with your life? I'm like, dang, I don't, like on the spot, like got me to think. Looking back at it now, I realized he was painting my Hell Island.
Yeah.
Which is, but yeah, what really changed my mind was the close call. Great closer.
Okay. So you have the conversation with him, you jump in. What I guess was maybe the next, or actually let me backtrack a little bit. Because a really big thing, I think a lot of people kind of let get in their way, and it doesn't matter if you're younger, older, like whatever, is like investing in yourself, right? And, someone that is, 17 at the time, right? 17, 18, what helped you, I guess, what helped you, and like, what helped you in your head, like justify, okay, I'm investing this amount of money into myself for the growth, as opposed to, someone that might be in the mindset of like, oh, like, yeah, this is a scam, or like, what if I don't make my money back, or, things like that. Just, I guess, overall thoughts of investing in yourself.
Yeah, I thought about like, oh, what if it's a scam? But then there's that one thought I was like, what if it isn't? Like what if it does work out? What if this does save everything? And I didn't even have the money at the time. I only had like 3K in my bank, and it was a lot of money, over 6K. And I was like, oh, I don't even have the money for it. But, I was thinking in my head, like, you have to spend money to make money, and even if I do end up failing, the worst case scenario, I go back to Panera, work again, save up some money, and do it again. But yeah, I wanted to take a chance because I looked at everybody else, and I looked at where they were at. I looked at the path they followed, and I'm like, if I follow this traditional path, I'm gonna get traditional outcomes, and I'll get their exact outcome, and I don't exactly want that outcome, so I had to do something different. And at that time, like, who's paying that much for a course, and I'm 17, I don't even have the money. You're like, you know what, I'm gonna do it and just see what happens. I gotta take this risk. One of the biggest things he told me on the call is, if like it feels scary, lean into it, because that's gonna help you grow. And I was like, all right, you sold me, let's get
yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. What do you think that like, you going through that experience of just like, being a little scared to jump into it and then doing it, do you think that helps you in like in your setting now?
Man, yeah, I mean, definitely, taking risks, doing things out of the ordinary. Just that feeling, I've always like stuck to that a little bit, like, feel scary, lean into it and do it, because you're gonna grow. So that's the biggest thing I took from that call, is like, now I look at things differently. Like, I take a risk that somebody wouldn't take. I buy something that somebody be like, oh, that's outrageous, why would you do that? Like, no, I see the long-term value in it. Like, I know it's gonna put me in debt now, but over time, I know this is gonna make me back more, and it's gonna help me out in the future. So I look at things differently now.
Yeah, and I think it also, if, let's say from like a setting standpoint, like when you go and have these conversations with, these people that, you're helping them, like wanting to build a business, like you have that experience in your back pocket to now like speak from experience and say, hey, like I understand that it might be a little bit uncomfortable now, like this investment might seem like a lot of money, but that's where I came from, right? And just like kind of taking your own story and running with it and selling that experience. So okay, cool. So Chris brings you in, and like what was your, I guess, maybe first experiences in the program? What happened after that? Like what was kind of the progression from, okay, you're into it, and then now I'm working closer to landing a gig?
Man, so I was scared out of my mind out of how much money I just spent. I told Chris the first day I bought it that I would watch the course. I remember like closing my laptop. Okay, I just spent a lot of money. Walked upstairs to ate a bowl of cereal and then went to sleep. Didn't think about it. And the next day I'm okay. I have to put work into this. I think the first thing I did is I called my best friend, my dude. I don't know what happened. He says this can happen X amount of months. I'm gonna try it, bro. I'm freaking out. This could change my future. We'll see what happens. Like, all right, bro. Hang up. And then the next day, I post in the Facebook group, hey, I'm new. I'm excited to get started. Hopefully it's not a scam, but I'm excited to get started and, put my all into it. And then I got a bunch of replies. So that very beginning day, what I was doing is I went to school. I had my headphones in and I was listening to music. I was listening to Cole Gordon's teachings. So as I was walking in the halls, constantly playing in my head, and I'm replying to the comments on the Facebook group. And then I meet a buddy named Derek Gersman. And I work with my friend now. I could call him my friend because like we've been through so much together. He helped me stay motivated. He was that one person that really reached out his hand like, hey, I'm in this too. Let's do this together. Here's my phone number. You call me when you have any struggles. We're going to help each other out. And that's like really kept me motivated, is the community. So the first day, making connections and listening to Cole Gordon's teachings.
Awesome, man. Yeah, that's a huge, I feel like I say it pretty much every episode at this point, but like everyone talks about community and like how important it is to, and I think it's like one thing, like I think everyone's program and course, they talk about like, we have a great community, but like, is it actually true? You know what I mean? And I think like, because that's like the least, or, the most common denominator within all of these conversations that I've had, it's just like, not only community, but just getting down into the root of, if you can do it yourself 100%, but it's so much easier and so much more rewarding, and like the journey I feel like is, it's a lot more fun when you have someone else you're like actively doing it with and like sharing that experience with, What do you think is like, for you, any maybe like hard points within the program, like outside of what we just talked about, after that, if someone else is coming through the program, or, someone is currently in the program that's watching this, is there anything that you'd maybe say like, hey, like you should probably know this before, X, Y, and Z? Can you think of anything like top of mind?
Oh yes. The most biggest thing with RCA to help me grow was the mock calls. So get as many mock calls as you can. I mean, the curriculum is amazing. I love listening to it, but you can't just be a thinker, you have to be a doer. So you have to like actually experience talking, handling objections, learning how to talk correctly, more smoothly and more energetic and things like that. But yeah, so people who are brand new, listen to the course in your headphones when you have downtime. But the biggest thing and the main thing you should be doing is really having your script on one side of the screen and on a Zoom call with another person and mock calling like constantly, like 5 calls a day, every single day. Just full on doing it. Obviously you can't do it every day, but like just do as many as you can, because that is going to be the experience that helps you in the real world, basically.
Yeah. How many mock calls do you think, I mean, do you have it like, do you know the exact number, or like around like how many mock calls you've done?
So I tracked every single one. I stopped tracking after 50, but I did over 50. After that, I would say roughly I've done at least 70 mock calls for RCA, at least. Mm-hmm. And I've only ever done one live mock call. I should have done more, but I only ever did one. It was Chris Acti. I believe that's how I say his last name.
Acti, yeah.
And I was sweating so much. Like I was so nervous, but I knew like palms are sweating. I was freaking out, but I knew I had to do it because I was nervous about it. So I had to do it, and I have to break that fear.
Yeah, man. I think it's really cool to see, how you kind of like take that one thing that you learn on that closing call of just like leaning into the fear and then always just going throughout the process and implementing the same thing. Cause I think like there's really like two people in those situations. There's the ones that kind of like, they get that feedback and they kind of just like crumple up in a ball in the corner and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm never doing that again. But then there's the ones that kind of like attack the fear, and then they obviously see the light at the end of the tunnel and are able to reap the benefits there. So that's super cool. So let's touch on the offer. So we don't have to go like it's specifics into the name of the offer or anything like that. But what was the process of you doing these 70 mock calls and then the transition into like applying for some of these remote setting jobs?
Yeah. So in the beginning, I got into pipeline in March. Bad interview. I showed up in a Star Wars t-shirt. My upper right eyebrow was bleeding because of my cat,
Oh man.
and I had a messy bed in the background.
Oh shoot.
So it was a bad interview. I'm not gonna lie, because they noted it was a bad interview when I talked to my coach. He's like, yeah, they noted you came in unprofessional. So that's a big reason why I didn't get any offers from it for a long time. Yeah, and then as that happened, that interview, I got no offers. I was freaking out, so I started self-sourcing on Facebook groups, and I landed an offer. Horrible, most horrible offer ever. I mean, they're called RivX, so stay away from them. The RivX automations, don't go to them.
It's dropping names.
Yeah, I'll drop that name, dude, because I gotta save people from that. Like I worked there for a month and a half, 8 hours a day, every single day. I was skipping class, setting appointments. The closes were bad, $0, $0. They lied to us about how many clients they had, their process, how much things were. They didn't give us any info, but being a more gullible kid, I was looking for anything at that point. But be careful with them, please.
Yeah.
But oh man, the only good thing I got from there is I made good connections with my coworkers, because when we all quit the team, like a team of like 20 people, we all quit.
Oh shit.
Like it was a bad environment. The only good part about it is I made connections, and then some of those people went off to start their own business, and now they're running it successfully, which is sweet. But yeah, as my buddy Derek before, he landed a job at capitalism.com, and he worked there for a couple months as a closer. Said it was a great opportunity. I was looking for a position because I just quit the bad one, so I was looking for another one. And he let me know they were hiring, referred me, and then I tried my absolute hardest and I landed it.
Even though like in hindsight, it's like, oh my gosh, like that was like a terrible, like, a terrible experience. I think like you learned, like you said, right? Like the first thing of just networking and connecting with those people. Like if you wouldn't have ever connected with those people, like who's to say you would ever get that next opportunity, So I think like anyone that's listening, and this is more for people that like are either in RCA or they're already doing remote closing stuff, is I think there's always something to learn from offers, even if it doesn't work out at the end of the day. Like for me personally, I think I went through, 4 or 5 offers before I landed on something that I actually enjoyed. And there was, there was good culture, there was good product market fit. There was, all these things that we look at before jumping into it. So again, those of you that are listening, don't feel too discouraged if you're currently in an offer or, you don't think one's like the best. Obviously do your research before jumping into them. But you can always learn something from those opportunities. Cool. So, one of the biggest things with these interviews is, people are always wondering like, all right, cool. Like all that stuff's great, but, how much money do you make? So, what was I guess either we can talk about earning potential, or I think you dropped something specifically in the, in your post. So I guess just talk about how's the offer going so far?
Dude. Oh man. I mean, very, very well. I've never made this amount of money in my life. I mean, the amount of money I made last month would take me 7 months at Panera Bread. Making in 1 month.
Nice.
Like I know it's a setting position, but like some calls I close them because I just felt it. So I'm like, okay, this is a good close right now. So I just close them on the spot. Obviously, you get more money for that, but I've done that before. So man, and it's convenient. I did it on a vacation. Like I was literally camping with my family. I did it at the dining table with obviously a nice shirt, a nice background, professionally. But I closed them, and I had one day where I made over $1,000 in one
Uh-huh.
day, and I was flipping out because I'm like, oh my gosh, the potential you can make in this space is crazy.
hmm And
And
that's like, just to touch on, sorry to cut you off, but like you say, like, made $1,000 in one day, but I want people to understand, like, that's not the same as like working at Panera in a day and getting $1,000. That's like, Panera, you're there for 8 hours. I'm assuming
mhm,
like, with some of these setter calls, like you maybe worked a couple hours, you know what I mean? To make that,
mhm. And the calls
um,
are only like 15 minutes long, only 15 minutes.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, dude, that's awesome. Sorry, I cut you off, but so you're making, making more than you are now. So I guess like any other experiences from that offer that are, that you enjoy?
Oh my goodness, the coaches. I mean, what we do is we help entrepreneurs build out their business, and I have access to those courses because I work for them. So very grateful and appreciative they gave me that access. And now that I do, I'm building my own business out, and these coaches are helping mentoring me through that. And they're not like coaches where they haven't done it before. These people have businesses and they're millionaires. So I'm in a spot where like I'm surrounded by all these successful people, and I'm glad because I'm picking up on their good habits. And yeah, I love the team. I love the community there, the students. We really connect. It's just I'm loving it so far. I really am.
Dude, that's amazing. I think like that's a huge thing that I want to touch on is like, obviously we talk, I mean, I just mentioned it a second ago, like everyone's always worried about like how much money can I make with this, but there's just so many other positive things that come from it, especially like you just said, right? To get in proximity of, millionaires, right? People that are doing $1 million a year, or, just in general, like net worth, is you usually have to spend tens of thousands of dollars to even be next to those people, and like just to be able to like not only see like what they're doing on a daily basis, but just be like it, be able to ask them questions, right? Like, and be mentored by them. There's so many other things that come from, and you get to see like how actual businesses work, now obviously money is a big part of it. And also, one of the reasons we love or why I love remote closing and the talking points that we mentioned is like, you can start a business if you want to, right? If you're working a 9 to 5, but what does it take to build a business, at least, quickly? It takes capital, right? And if you don't have capital to do that, I mean, we're talking about, if we're doing $1,000 a day, like you're going to be able to build that business a lot quicker than, saving a couple hundred bucks a month from working, whatever other job. Cool, man. So I guess like, what would you say to, we'll talk to two different people, or I guess a couple different people. The first is like someone that may be in your shoes. And I want to use this interview for people that like, younger people, 16, 17, 18, that kind of like doubt themselves a little bit. And they say, oh, like, I can't do this because I don't have any experience. Like, what would you say to someone younger that's thinking about jumping into a setting or closing position?
I had zero experience. So if you're thinking like jumping is, oh, I have an experience, I don't have an experience, it's fine. They RCA teaches you everything. I knew zero about anything when I came here. They taught me the very first mall call was horrible. I didn't even have a script. And then I accidentally insulted the lady by accident in the
Oh
call.
man.
like we were talking about selling a fitness program, and she says something along the lines of like eating so much. I'm like, well, stop eating that much, because something like that. It was so bad. She's like, excuse me. I'm like, obviously the
Oh
chocolate is
man.
making you. I was like, oh
I
crap. But
mean, at the end of like sometimes brutal honesty is something someone needs to hear, but you got to ask permission first, right? Hey, is it okay
yeah,
if I ask you a personal question?
yeah. But that just goes to show I had zero experience. I don't know what I
Yeah.
was saying, but RCA taught me literally everything. So when I say to the youth, like this, if it only works if you put work into it. I've seen other people who, didn't put work into it and then they didn't get anything. But that's not on RCA. That's on them because they didn't put the work in. If you put the work in, you will get what you want. I'm dead set on that. There's so much opportunity here. All you have to do is have the right mindset and just do the work.
Got it. Yeah, and that's the same thing with anything, right? It's like if if you're looking to drop 10 pounds and you're not eating right and you're not, working out consistently, it's like, what were you expecting? So, okay. So, at the end there, you touched, you said, as long as you have the right mindset, like what would you say to someone that is, maybe they are thinking about, hey, like maybe I should start should I start a business? Should I start remote closing? Like, someone that's kind of on the fence of either of those two, like what would you recommend to them?
Obviously, for a business, take some money if it has to be. If like some of it all depends on what you're trying to do. Obviously, having more money in the bank is a good thing to do. So learning a high valuable skill that businesses know, start with closing if you want, or you can start a business, but start with something that works. You've seen some people work in. And yeah, what was the question again? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no. So that basically touched on it, right? Like, I think that's a good answer. Like, it just depends on where you currently are and what your like end goal is. Like what, I guess someone that is maybe skeptical about RCA in general, right? Let's say they made the decision in their head. They're like, okay, cool. I've seen this remote closing stuff and you've seen some videos on it, but like, I don't know about that Cole guy, or I don't know about RCA. Like, what would you say to that person to like kind of get them over there? Maybe having had been burned in the past or anything like that. What would you say to someone like that?
You got to stop being analysis paralysis. I mean, if you constantly think it over and over and over again, then you'll never move. You never grow. You're in a rocking chair, you're just rocking. You're not getting anywhere. So if you want to know who the Cole Gordon guy is, experience it. You've seen the reviews, you've seen the Reddits. I even looked it up before, and they were saying bad things too before when I first before I joined. And I was like, you know what? I know they're saying this, but this guy's saying this. I just had to find my own experience. So yeah, I had to just do it. Literally, Nike, just do it, but yeah, don't be analysis paralysis, because if you do that, then for certain you won't grow. But if you do it, there's a bigger possibility that you can grow. So weigh your odds, just you gotta do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a big difference between, if someone's saying like, I don't like my current position, and they're also not doing anything to get out of that position. It's like, the saying, nothing changes if nothing changes, right? If you want to make a difference within your life and you want to make a difference, as a byproduct in other people in your life, then you got to make the decision to move forward. So, dude, any last, I guess, things, actually, we'll think of your answer to this. Any last words that you say to someone that's listening to this all the way into 30 minutes? And I'm going to mention something real quick first. So for those of you that are, watching up to this point, whether you're on the podcast app or, you're watching on YouTube, is if you want to learn more about remote closing, right? We have a video you can check out. It'll be down in the description here on YouTube or on the podcast app. It'll bring you over to, same video. It's just in the show notes, a little different area there for the podcast. But what it does is just breaks down remote closing in a little bit more of detail, right? You might have found this on your like discovery page or something like that. And you're like, remote closing, like I don't really understand what this is. The video will break down the entire process of exactly how it works, how Cole got started, made $500,000 in a year from a point where he was also washing dishes and didn't kind of know where his life was going. So again, you want to check out that video. Link will be down in the description and the show notes to check that out. But yeah, dude, any last words for anyone that's listening up to this point?
You make money for a reason. Why not take risks to potentially build something out? I mean, if it fails, then it fails, but you do know if you keep going down the path you're going now, what your result is. If you take a risk, you could get the lifestyle you want. If you don't take any risks in life, then you could regret it at 65, saying, oh, I wish I would have did this. You're in that moment in your life right now where like you can do something to change. So don't regret something in the future. If you see something that's could potentially change your life, try it. If it fails, you fail, you just try again. That's what life is.
There you go. All right, guys. So thanks so much for everyone for hanging out with us here for the past couple of minutes, the past 30 minutes or so, just chatting. Aidan, appreciate you jumping on and sharing your experiences with the program. So one more time, guys, check out the link in the description if you want to learn a little bit more about remote closing. And that's going to do it for this episode. So thanks, guys. Aaron here from the Remote Closing Academy podcast, and we'll see you guys on the next episode. Talk soon. Peace.